Hi, everyone. I'm Rosemary Miller here with Richard Chang, a wealth reporter here at Forbes. Richard, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Rosemary.
Richard, I read your story. Billionaire investor buys Jeffrey Epstein's private island for $60 million. Richard, could you tell me who is this billionaire investor?
Stephen Deckoff is the founder and principal manager of the private equity firm Black Diamond Capital Management, which has about $9 billion in assets. Throughout his career, Deckoff has worked his way up at different multinational investment banks and became senior vice president at Kidder, Peabody and Company before leaving to start his own firm, Black Diamond, in 1995. Black Diamond has managed companies across different sectors, specializing in distressed debt, restructuring, including companies that from produce grower Sunworld to the entertainment network Ion Media. Black Diamond is based in Stamford, Connecticut, but Stephen Deckoff, who we calculated has a net worth of about $3 billion, moved to the U.S. Virgin Islands in 2011. And since then, he's given more than $1.2 million to various nonprofits and charities in the territory. But he's lived there for over a decade now.
In your writing, you wrote, Epstein's ownership has cast a dark shadow over the island. So, for those who don't know, could you give us a super quick recap of what this dark shadow is?
Yes, Little St. James and Great St. James Islands have a very dark history. Jeffrey Epstein purchased Little St. James in 1998 for about $8 million. He lived in his large mansion and built temples and mysterious statues across the island. And the island played a key role in Epstein's sex trafficking ring. Alleged victims said he would traffic them to his island, as well as his associates, and victims would be sexually abused there, including many underage girls, which is why Little St. James was nicknamed Pedophile Island.
Okay, so could this possibly be the reason that Deckoff was able to purchase this island for $60 million rather than the asking price of $125 million?
It certainly seems that way. The islands have been on the market for over a year, and Stephen Deckoff paid only $60 million for both, which is less than half the initial asking price of $125 million. The area is still recovering from a Category 5 hurricanes, Irma and Maria, that hit the islands in September 2017 and damaged much in the environment, which is another factor to consider. But I'm also sure that there are very few people out there who are interested in purchasing the former Jeffrey Epstein-owned islands with everything that Little St. James is associated with.
So, back to this purchase of $60 million. Is it true that the U.S. Virgin Islands actually received half of that sale? If so, why?
Jeffrey Epstein's estate agreed to pay the U.S. Virgin Islands $105 million in a settlement after the territory sued them in 2020. The Virgin Islands said Epstein duped them into granting his company, Southern Trust Company, about $80 million in tax benefits that allowed Epstein to use his residence there to abuse girls and women. As part of that settlement, the U.S. Virgin Islands would get half of the proceeds from this sale. So $30 million would go to the Virgin Islands, and that money would be put into a trust that would provide counseling and other services for victims of sexual abuse.
Okay. And so, do you know the plans that Deckoff has for the islands?
The vision that Stephen Deckoff has indicated in his plans for the islands is to build a luxury 25-room resort on the island. There's already a few different things on the island, like a helipad, private beaches, and stuff. Of course, the Virgin Islands are already a tropical vacation destination, and Deckoff has lived on the islands for over a decade. He said that he wants to build this resort to help boost economic development in the region and create jobs. But he also said that he wants this to be a very eco-conscious resort. He's already donated to a few different charities in the area that helps environmental preservation, and he said that that is one of his goals for this resort is to build something that is going to help protect the environment while also creating jobs in the area.
And would you happen to know when the resorts are going to be complete?
He said that he plans to open the resort in about 2 years from now. He's already in talks with engineers and architects to help construct this luxury property, but it seems to still be in its early stages.
So, because of that, once again, that dark shadow we mentioned earlier, do you think that people would actually show up and go to these resorts?
It's hard to say. I'm very skeptical that many people would be interested in going to a resort like this because of the island's history, but who knows?
All right. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.